Good morning. Welcome to the October 11, 2022 meeting of Henderson County Fiscal Court. We're glad you're with us as always. For those who are watching online, we're glad you're with us as well. We will start as we always do with an invocation, and Reverend Jim Wolford from Henderson First United Methodist Church is with us. To lead us in prayer, please stand.
I'd like to say that, ironically, this past Sunday I preached on Jeremiah 29, and it's the story of when the Israelites or the Jews were being carted off to a foreign land. And God gave a very strange word to them as they found themselves in a new place, a new home. He said, pray for the peace and prosperity of where you now live. You know, it just goes back to when the waters rise, all boats float, including those that had been carried off to a place they didn't want to be. And how much more so for a place we love and care for. Let's pray. Lord, we are so thankful that you are a good God and that you care for all. And you instruct us to pray for the peace and prosperity of those places where we live. Lord, we are so thankful for this place that we call Henderson. Lord, what a tremendous community of gifts and beauty and goodness that exist here. And Lord, we do pray for the peace and prosperity of this county and ask that as these who have gathered today to deliberate issues that come before them, that you grant our magistrates your wisdom and your guidance and direction, that indeed all who live might find your blessings, might find the blessings of neighbors who care for one another, and that your wisdom would guide and direct each decision. So we pray your blessings in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Manager Southern.
Here.
Manager Moran.
Here.
Manager Putman.
Here.
Manager McCollum.
Here.
Manager Berry. Here.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have before you the minutes of the September 27th, 2022 Fiscal Court meeting. After a period of review, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other corrections, clarifications, or additions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll start off the regular agenda with the proclamation in honor of Kentucky Extension Homemakers Week. I know we have some representatives from Extension. Amanda, if you want to come on up. Make sure you reintroduce the guest to everybody.
Thank you for having us. Today we have two of our homemakers, Marilyn Watson, who is our county president, and Karen Hill, who has just stepped down as our state homemaker president. So I'm going to let Marilyn come up and say a few words, and this is Homemaker Week, so we of course would like to make that known as our Henderson County Homemaker Week.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to tell you that as KEHA, as a statewide, we have over 10,891 members, and it consists of like 14 areas, and there's 9 educational chairmen with that. And for Henderson County, I'd like to brag on us just a little bit that last year that we got the Volunteer Service Honor Awards for personal, because we record our hours that what we volunteer for in the areas of community, personal, KEHA, and then extension on those on how we volunteer. And of course, Karen won in the KEHA as being president. She was very busy. We received 3rd place on ovarian cancer. That's one of our big projects that we have as statewide, is to do and donate to the Markey Center for Ovarian Cancer. And Henderson County came in 3rd with having the most new screeners that would go and went for screening, because screening is free for anyone over the age of 50 that you may go and make an appointment. So our total volunteer hours that were reported just for Henderson County was 8,823 for the last year that we have done. Forget the formula of doing that into dollars, but Karen probably knows. $24 Yeah, $24 an hour. So that's a lot of hours that we have contributed to Henderson County, and we're hoping to do more. Of course, membership has been on the decline. We understand that with COVID and everything, but we've presented one scholarship to the high school that they would do something in the FCS field that then we would do, and that could be through finance, childcare. It doesn't necessarily have to be through the homemakers, what you would consider the old-fashioned homemakers thing. And we do snacks for the 4-H camps that we provide for all of our Henderson kids that go to 4-H camp. We make sure that they have snacks. I know that they really enjoy that. But that's the main thing that I would have to say about Henderson County homemakers, and we appreciate you for the proclamation.
Thank you. Well, on that note, I'll read the proclamation.
Okay.
Judge, before we do, can I say something?
Sure.
Wow. That's incredible. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Whereas the Kentucky Extension Homemakers Association has more than 10,800 members and more than 720 clubs throughout the Commonwealth, and whereas this organization is dedicated to improving the quality of life for families and communities through education, leadership development, and volunteer services, and whereas the organization has worked to achieve this mission for 90 years, providing services in communities across Kentucky, and whereas this organization continues to endeavor to strengthen, develop, coordinate, and extend adult education and family and cooperative services in cooperation with the University of Kentucky Cooperative Extension Service. Now, therefore, I, Brad Schneider, by virtue of the authority vested in me as County Judge Executive, do hereby proclaim the week of October 9th through 15th, 2022 as Kentucky Extension Homeowners Week in Henderson County, and encourage all of our citizens to participate in Extension Homemakers activities in Henderson.
Can I get a photo of that?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Good job, Karen.
I just step in where needed.
Nick's on it.
Yeah, I just step in where needed.
You don't want to be in the picture.
Thank you very much.
They have.
If I could say
do
something
a-
to
they
you
do a
all.
lot.
I have a wonderful wife, and she manages our home. People don't realize how important that is financially and other ways. We're also very fortunate and blessed to have Beth Moran, who's a home economics teacher. And if you can run a household properly, you can run a fiscal court properly. Seriously, I mean, it's incredible. There's a lot of similarities. People just don't realize that. They just think it, well, but thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
That's exactly right, yes, yes.
Thank you all. Next, I'll ask DJ Story from Peel and Holland to come join us. It's time of year to consider our health insurance. He's going to give us an update and has a request, and we'll get to that after he's
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks for having me. Appreciate to be here at the pleasure of the court. Glad to see everybody again today. And yes, it is that time of year to go through any benefits changes and what we're providing for our employees at Henderson County. So we're going to do a quick review of as far as plan financials, benchmarking, and where we kind of just remind ourselves if we've got a good plan or not, or if we're in the right space or not from a claims and financials perspective, and then we'll go through some recommendations alongside that. I won't bury the lead. It's all good news. We've got another good year, but just go through that information. So quick financial review. Plan financials, this is a quick snapshot of where we've been over the past 6-7 years and where we're projecting out the end of this year. The top line graph shows the number of members on the plans. We did have a dip back a few years ago. That's leveled off, and then we have our cost per member per year. As you see, the projection for 2022 is at $6,870 per member per year as far as what our cost to Henderson County is to provide the health insurance coverage. That's gone down slightly over the past couple of years, We did have a jump in 2020 based on some high-cost claims and some things of that nature. But I'll take you back to 2016 and 2017 is when we made some plan changes and really have been able to stay consistent after those plan changes and provide the same types of benefits to employees at the same level of cost. So huge win in the sense that has been consistent over that time period. Any questions on these numbers? So this breaks this down a little bit further. I'm not going to make you read every number on this page, but basically what I want to show is the consistency that we've had over the past however many years. The Henderson County is self-funded when it comes to their health insurance, as a reminder. And what that means is that we're paying the claims under a certain threshold for any claimants that have claims. And so really the county is providing health insurance, but the employees are the ones that the users of that insurance are what keeps our costs down. And so by maintaining healthy lifestyles and keeping from going to high cost services when unnecessary, it helps overall keep our costs down. The other piece of that was creating a plan design that helped encourage those types of behaviors, and that's what we did back in 2017. And since then, those claims have been really consistent. So the big blue bar is just what we're paying in claims. The red bar is what we're paying, or we're getting back in reimbursements. So we would have had claims, but the insurance kicked in at that point, so we had those reimbursements. The teal bar is the stop loss, or the actual insurance that we pay for, and then the dark blue bar is the administration. So we're paying Anthem a small fee for administration, a larger fee for stop loss, but the majority of our costs are coming from our claims. Any questions on this? So where does that stack up? Now, we didn't have a localized benchmarking for this past year, but I do want to remind that this is the same, if not better, than what we're seeing from a national perspective. And one of the things I would point out on this page is that the family coverage for employees at Henderson County Fiscal Court is well below benchmark, even for a couple of years ago, and that's only increased. So again, paying $346 for a plan of health insurance on the family. The average nationally was $501 back in 2020, and that's only increased since then. Our local average has been fairly consistent, but again, that was higher than the national average is already. When you look at the cost, the family net healthcare cost exposure, so what if we had a lot of claims if a family was to have a hospitalization, things of that nature? What's worst case scenario? You see at the bottom right of the page that Henderson County employees are much better off than what even the national averages are. So again, kudos to the plan designs and the work of the team here. The other piece is where the contributions rank from past years. So this chart here shows what average annual employee contribution is for a family. So back in 2010, the average nationally was $3,997. That's risen in 2021 to being almost $6,000 is what normally families are paying to have health insurance coverage for their family. Well, you see with the Henderson County Fiscal Court breakout there on the left-hand side of the page, they're paying $3,912. They're paying less than what a family would have been paying back in 2010 in 2021. So again, great benefit and value for the benefits that are offered for our folks here. So Henderson County put the HRA style plans back in 2017 to help encourage good behaviors when it comes to the health insurance, and that has been successful. Cost to employees has remained under benchmark, and since 2017, the county has not increased the cost of coverage of the plan design to employees in that time period, and we do not recommend doing that again for this year as well. Now, we did encourage a little bit of pain point as far as the way that we had to go about this regarding the renewal, but I think we've come to a good solution that's going to provide a continued benefit for our employees and for the fiscal court's budget. So Anthem ASO, just as a breakout again, we have Anthem as our health insurance coverage, but there's a couple of pieces to that, right? So we have Anthem as the administrator of claims. Currently, we have Anthem as the stop loss or reinsurance carrier that covers us if someone has large claims. And then the other piece is just you're paying the claims themselves, right? So there's three parts of the insurance. Anthem did increase the cost of the administration piece by 10%, but of course that's the smallest piece of the puzzle. So that means only a $5,400 annualized increase in relation to the total cost of the health plan. And we did look at outside stop-loss carriers outside of Anthem regarding that insurance piece. The reason we did that is Anthem came back with a stop-loss that was asking for a 13% increase on that, and they put an expectation of claims about 39%. Now, we don't necessarily pay the expectation of claims, but it does increase our overall liability if we were to have a bad claims year. So when we started to see those numbers and the way that Anthem was providing that, we went ahead and took this out to multiple stop-loss markets. That doesn't mean people's coverage would change from Anthem. They still would administer. But what we were doing is just carving out that insurance piece in order to get a better deal for the fiscal court. When we did that, we've got a stop-loss carrier known as HCC, A+ rated carrier, to get a better stop-loss renewal. That's a 2% decrease in current premium, so we reduce the cost of our overall stop-loss insurance, and a 3% increase in expected claims cost. A lot of that just comes with overall inflationary costs of medical care, that is going up. Can't really avoid it having any kind of increase on that side of things. What does that mean? If we have all of those numbers totaled up, our expected liability in 2023 would be at $1.8 million, and our maximum liability, where that umbrella coverage kicks in, the aggregate coverage kicks in, would be at $2.2 million. And this isn't taking into consideration any employee premiums that would help obviously reduce that cost if we were to have that maximum claims year. So given that, what we would, let me go back. Given that, what we would recommend, it would be moving forward with Anthem as the administrator and carving out the stop loss. And we'll go through what that recommendation would look like today. But then that definitely keeps us within, proposed budgets for our expected liabilities this year. Any questions as far as on that renewal piece?
Well, I have one.
Yes.
So, did we shop out maybe using someone else other than Anthem to be our administrator?
We did not, and the reason is that based on the data that we see, that Anthem overall network discounts are still a significant benefit to the county employees and the budget factors. When we're looking at other carriers, there's really only a few networks, right, that you can look at. You can look at Anthem, you can look at United. Humana as an administrator is good, but their self-funded piece is a little bit, would just not be the best for us. You can also shop out an outside network like a Cigna network. But the disparity between, like, say, a Cigna network and an Anthem is roughly 20% gross on those gross medical claims. And so you see this huge shift in how much are we paying for a procedure today change what we would pay for it tomorrow. So in order to keep our costs down as much as possible, I think Anthem, and limit disruption to employees, the first step would be, hey, let's look at the outside stop loss as creating our reduction there and not a separate administrator.
Okay.
But it's a great question. And it might be something that we look at down the road. Those things can change over time, but Anthem is still the largest and best network, at least in the state of Kentucky.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions? Other renewals, dental with HRI is a rate hold for 2023, so no change there. Vision is also contained within the Anthem contract and is no cost change on the vision either for employees. HRA is with McGregor, so no changes on that side of things. And so basically to recommend, our recommendation would be to renew the plan with Anthem and hold rates for employees, making no plan changes for the 2023 plan year. And that is the 6th year in a row that we would have no changes for employees. The other piece of this would be to move forward with carving out the stop loss with HCC. That process is a little bit different. Typically when I come before you guys, we have just an administrative agreement from Anthem that includes the stop loss. We just sign that off and we move on. When we're carving that stop loss out, it does require a couple steps. Basically, the numbers I presented today are dependent upon a signed, what they call a disclosure statement. Now, they have all the claims information that we've had up through August, and what they are, they've locked in those rates based on that. we basically have to sign a disclosure that says there's no other large pending claims that we know of. Now, we can't know everything, right? But there's no other large pending claims that we know of that's going to change that significantly. Once we sign that, then they send us a final stop-loss proposal based on those same rates. So assuming all of that stays the same, then we would move forward with those rates as presented and move forward with the plan year as we've talked about.
Couple comments. When DJ and Angela and Brenda and I talked about the options on the stop-loss carriers, DJ did a good job of presenting 3 or 4 that all had pluses and minuses, some savings here and some increased costs there. And the one we settled on, HCC, was the one that the price range was almost identical to ours, slightly less expensive. There were no unusual coverages, no big variations from what we currently have, so we thought that would be the best solution. A couple of the ones that might have been cheaper also had steeper penalties if we guessed wrong, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so basically we looked at options where right now we have what's called a $100,000 specific deductible. $100,000 specific deductible means that any person on the plan, once they've had $100,000 in claims, then the insurance kicks in. You don't have any other liability after that. One of the ways you can reduce your fixed cost premium is to increase that deductible, right? So instead of having $100,000, have $125,000. Well, we could reduce our overall fixed premium by doing that, but if we have a few high-cost claimants that come in, well, then we could lose that savings in the long run. So we evaluated that, said really the benefit was not worth the potential liability on those options.
So we did agree that HCC was probably the best one to present at this meeting. It also allowed us, for the 6th year in a row, not to have to raise the premiums on our employees, and we're very proud of that.
That's pretty much unheard of, I believe. I think
Yes.
3 years ago you told us that we were
Yeah.
past due for a really bad year. I think we have to thank our employees for taking better care of themselves and not smoking and doing the bad things that hurt our health, because it'll happen someday. But
It will. I mean, it's just statistically you're going to have one of those years. I mean, we're at 6 years in a row. Even the bad years we've had have been marginal. We're going to have one of those. That's again towards that math of potentially increasing our specific deductible. Well, what if we're increasing it in the year where our liability is going to be increased anyway? So that will happen, but the better we continue to budget for that, the less impact it can make on those members in that given year, right? So that's a credit to the HR and finance team to make sure that we are doing the right things on the back end to make sure when we have those large years, we're not having to immediately put a large increase on the employees.
A couple things we need to take care of. Well, one thing is DJ mentioned this disclosure. We want to make sure we lock in the rate that we've been quoted. We are not going to be able to completely sign all the contracts for renewal until the next fiscal court meeting. Some of the contracts still need to be reviewed by the county attorney's office. But to make sure we lock in the rate that was quoted to us by HCC, we do need to turn in this disclosure. And I would ask that a motion be made to allow us to do that based on consultation between Angela and DJ to make sure there's nothing hanging out there so that we can be certain that we get the rate we were quoted. I think the company's given us until the 14th of this month to do that.
Yes.
We won't be able to extend it out to the next fiscal court meeting, but it will simply make sure that we get the rate we've been quoted, and then we'll complete this deal at the next fiscal court.
are you making that motion?
I guess I can.
I'll second it.
Do you need me to repeat that, Kirk? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any other questions of DJ? It's a good report. I'm glad to see the numbers. Healthcare is increasing anywhere. I would note that some of those spikes we've seen in the last few years, if you noticed, probably had a lot to do with COVID and inflation now. So I think all is good.
There were also, you need to go ahead and move forward with the contracts with the other renewals. So the administration renewal with Anthem and the any dental or vision or other contracts, we'd have to go ahead and get those signed. But those aren't on a pending basis. We can
do that next meeting.
We could, yeah.
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 And they all stayed the same, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, DJ, and we'll
Thank you
get
for your
that
time.
disclosure signed. You saw the Planning Commission recommendations on case 1131 and 1133. If there's no other comments on those, we will move on. We have a series of economic development projects, as you know, and I asked both Mr. Gold and Missy if we could begin to knock those out and grant our approval for the eventual incentives that will be awarded by fiscal court once they meet those guidelines. And the first one is the most simple, and that's Accuride. And you have a copy of the resolution in your packet. And again, these are all they're required to meet their state incentive benchmarks, so none of our incentives
And that
start.
includes new hires.
Right. This
Okay.
in this case, the occupational tax waiver is only for the new hires. So you'll be seeing a series of these over the next couple months, so we can get them taken care of and approved. And this Accuride incentive is the first one. So any questions about that? I'll have the clerk read the resolution.
Resolution permitting rebate or retention by Accuride Corporation of the 1% occupational license fee on certain wages paid to employees in Henderson County, Kentucky, on the condition that Accuride Corporation meets the criteria of its application for incentives under the Kentucky Business Investment Act. Whereas Henderson County, Kentucky has adopted an occupational license fee ordinance providing for an occupational license fee of 1% on certain wages paid to employees in Henderson County. Whereas Accuride Corporation, hereinafter referred to as Accuride, operates a facility that manufactures heavy steel wheels and also houses the Accuride Wheels Research and Development, Product Development, and Testing facilities in Henderson County. Whereas Accuride has made application for certain benefits and incentives available to it under the Kentucky Business Investment Act, KBI, as a result of its commitment to locate and create 15 new jobs and approximately $2 million in capital investments to expand its manufacturing facility in Henderson County, and said application has been primarily approved by the Kentucky Economic Development Finance Authority. Whereas Henderson County, Kentucky is willing, as one of those incentives, to permit the retention of Accuride of the 1% occupational tax revenues to be paid by employees of said company for the new employees related to the current expansion, recognizing that said company's economic presence in the county enhances the economic prosperity of Henderson County, Kentucky. And whereas the Henderson Fiscal Court wishes to demonstrate its willingness to accept the rebate of said occupational tax payments for new employees related to this project or retention by said company as described above. Now therefore be it resolved by the Fiscal Court of the County of Henderson, Commonwealth of Kentucky as follows: that the Henderson Fiscal Court takes notice and hereby approves the application of Accuride for benefits and incentives available to said company under the KBI, including the application by said company for retention of or rebate to said company of the 1% occupational tax revenues to be paid by new employees of said company under the guidelines of Kentucky Business Investment Act. Number 2, that the approval herein granted is subject to said company receiving final approval of its application and meeting all terms and conditions of its eligible for said benefits under the Kentucky Business Investment Act and continued compliance therewith. That for 10 years subsequent to the activation date, as that term is defined in the agreement required by the Kentucky Business Investment Incentive State Program by and among the Kentucky Economic Development Finance Authority, Accuride and all the necessary parties, Accuride shall be entitled to retain or have rebated to it the 1% occupational license fee, which would otherwise be paid by new employees of said company from the respective salaries and wages. New employees shall be defined as the number of full-time employees over and above 137, the employee base provided in its KEDFA application. The 1% retention or rebate shall not apply to existing employees or positions or any number of employees below 137, nor other income or net profits of said company, and shall apply only to occupational license fees on wages paid to employees in Henderson County, Kentucky, sometimes otherwise referred to as payroll taxes.
Make a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You have in your packets the sheriff's monthly reports. Anything you want to add to that, Sheriff Crafton?
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the sheriff's monthly reports. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And now Treasurer Ryder.
There are no transfers for today, but I do have some claims. From the general fund to First National Bank of Omaha, which is the clerk's credit card, $4,185.58. The majority of this is for election material and supplies and meeting and training expenses, and is to come from those appropriation lines. To Visa, in the amount of $538.56. This is for EMA training expense and is to come from the EMA supplies appropriation line. To Teresa Childers, $1,169.77. This is for training incentive and is to come from the Treasurer's training incentive appropriation line and is to be paid with the 10/13/2022 payroll. From the jail fund to Advanced Document Solutions, $778.53. This is for copier leases and is to come from the data processing equipment appropriation line. To U.S. Bank, which is the credit card, $1,203.14. The majority of this is to come from the building repairs and maintenance and the equipment repairs and maintenance appropriation lines.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Anything else?
That's it.
Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any old business. Any old? Is that under old business? So you have in your packet the MOU for the grant we received to build 2 handicapped accessible restrooms in Sandy Watkins Park. The total is $200,000, and that's approximately, well, it is $100,000 per bathroom, most likely, and we will be contributing some in-kind labor and construction help. We have, I believe, until 2025 to make sure we get this accomplished. So some of the expenses will be reflected on this year's fiscal year budget, and some of those will be on next year's fiscal budget. So just see how fast we can go. We do have to have a motion to accept the MOU. Oh, you have a resolution? Okay. Why don't we, unless anybody has any questions, we can read the resolution.
With the court's pleasure, could we just read the
Please.
Summary.
The summary?
Please, just a
Yeah.
summary.
Thank you so much. Resolution authorizing the county judge executive to execute the memorandum of agreement with the Department of Local Government for grant number 21-01628 regarding funding for the construction of restroom facilities at Sandy Lee Watkins Park.
I'd make a motion to approve, and I'd like to tell you, I've had more people talk about going out there with their children and fishing, and just it's really quite nice. I think this will be a great addition.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
And it's not in Tim's district.
We'll move on to good of the county. Would anybody from the audience like to address the court for any items for good of the county? Yes, sir? Please state your name. Yeah.
My name is Wayne Hughes. I'm a retired banker. I live out in the little Dixie community. This is in reference to the portal. Our community has some concerns for the courts, and I will say right now we're not against new jobs, so we can put that to bed. My first concern is, and several of us are concerned, so others might address this to you also, and I thank you for allowing me to come for you today. Is traffic concerns. Sulphur Springs and Wheeler Road are very narrow roadways at this present time. Most of you probably haven't even thought about, Tim is very familiar with this area, is that those two roads are very narrow out there for the expected employment of traffic that's going to come forth in the next few years. Maybe some of you haven't even thought about Wheeler Road. I live on Wheeler Road, right there at the junction of Wheeler and Sulphur Springs. My family, my wife's family farm is right there. Excuse me. And we feel like these two roads are going to be heavily traveled. Depending on how many shifts are involved in this venture, there could be anywhere from, if there's 2 shifts, and I think you spoke, Judge, on speak up, maybe up to 400 at the max. That could be 200 vehicles, per shift. The community of Dixie is a nice, quiet little community. Wheeler Road may have 10 cars a day go down outside of our farm equipment. Pritchett Crooks, we already know, which is already on the just south of us there on the next road over. 2 o'clock in the morning, they have a lot of traffic now going through there from the east end of the coming from the east, going over to Riverview. So miners do find a way to do shortcuts. So we're very concerned about upkeep and how you're going to expand the roadways there to handle the proper traffic. There's also some bridges there that probably will have to be some updated on that also, which are fairly narrow. Could you get 2 cars through those bridges? Yes, but I would not advise to try to make that squeeze. The other possibility is the flood. That area of that 56 acres, part of that is in the floodplain. There's 2 major ditches that cross. One comes behind our house. They cross over into that. That's the waterway that catches all the Dixie watershed. There's a lot of water comes through there in the spring. So we have concerns of how that's going to be handled. Also, there's a large ditch that comes under Highway 145, and that has quite a bit of water comes through that how that's going to be handled by the county and by Alliance Coal Company, that we do not have water backed up on us on the Dixon farm or the Sigler farm. The other is, this is at my doorstep. I will sit on my deck and look at it. So my concern is property value for my house, and those houses that are around it, probably about 12 to 13 houses are within a mile radius from this site as the crow flies. The other is the sounds, the lights, water, sewage. The other big thing is, will there be a fan there? Some of this you may not know. No one has seen a blueprint of how this is going to lay out on this site. Right now, if any of you have been in our area, about 8 or 9 o'clock at night, you can hear the 1 car going down Sulphur Springs Road from my house. So this is going to make a tremendous impact. The construction will even make it worse. So we'd like to know what's going to consist of this 30,000 square foot. There's just going to be some office spaces, warehouse. If there's going to be a warehouse, then we expect tractor trailer and maybe more of FedEx, et cetera, traffic coming in there for small parts. I know for a fact they will not be heavy equipment like a continuous miner. They will not go down that 20-foot shaft. So those are concerns like coal dust being stored there. Rock dust being stored there. Other chemicals being stored on that site are a concern. And the other, I guess, is the impact on Dixie itself. We just don't know how Dixie what the advantage is for the community of Dixie, putting that there. So these are some of the concerns. We also, I hope that they'll have a vegetation berm put up that will help protect sound and noise from that area. But I guess our greatest thing is safety of all the traffic that's coming in through there. And it would be nice maybe if a highway
Traffic study?
Traffic study, thank you, sir. I haven't done this in a long time, Judge.
That's all right.
A long time. I think the last time I was before Fiscal Court, it was A.G. Pritchett was judge, so it's been a long time. So I appreciate that. I hope you'll take these under considerations because it is shook up the community of that, and we have nothing against Alliance. They are good people. They're and I've had the fortune of 45 years of banking dealing with coal miners and Alliance, and so I hope you'll take this under consideration and think about what your capital outlay is going to be to help the community out there. So,
A couple notes, and I really appreciate you all being here today. The way the process works now is that the company must go through to the Planning Commission and ask for a rezoning from agricultural to heavy industrial. And part of that process is submitting a site plan that has all these details on it, and it's a public document once it's brought to the Planning Commission. And during those meetings, they have a public hearing. You'll be able to submit public comments like this to the Planning Commission, and so they can hear all sides, all the potential upsides or downsides, including traffic safety and the other items you mentioned. The Planning Commission will review that. It may ask Alliance for modifications, such as vegetation screening, as you mentioned, or other alterations to the plan, depending on how they feel about what was submitted to them. The mine also must go through a state regulatory process. As you're probably familiar, all mines in the state of Kentucky are permitted through the state. That is a concurrent process with the rezoning request with the Planning Commission, and it has public hearing segments to it as well, the chance to submit public comments, and so the State Mining Commission can take those into account. So there's plenty of opportunities now for these concerns to be expressed to decision makers, and I encourage you to take advantage of that. And the mine is not scheduled yet when it is coming to the Planning Commission. There's some preparation they want to do, of course, to make sure that they have all the details that the Planning Commission will require, and to make sure that they have a good plan in their own minds to how to best utilize the property if it gets that far. So be looking for that. The Planning Commission publishes its agendas ahead of time. You're welcome to go and attend, and again, express your opinions and your concerns.
may I say one more thing?
Yes, sir.
I have contacted Frankfurt with my contacts. At this point, all there seems to be is only one requirement by the federal government, and the state administrates that for the federal government, as what I've been told. They're checking deeper for me. But since this is not a new mine, it is a portal off an existing mine, then permits from the state and the Fed, there's only one requirement, and it has to be a public, put in the public newspaper at this point. I can't remember what that is called. I apologize not having that. But what I understand is, since it is not a new actual coal mine or strip mine, that it's not a shaft that coal's coming out of, then that's my understanding. Maybe I've misunderstood.
Well, maybe double check and see if that particular permitting process has a public comment component to it. The other thing I'll say is I have talked to leadership at Alliance and Riverview, along with Henderson Economic Development, about having an informal information session in Little Dixie, perhaps at the church. I don't think they've been contacted yet, but it could easily be organized, I would think, and have representatives of the mine there to describe the plan, to take comments in a little educational session. And they would also, I think, welcome visitors to the Portal 2 facility in Union County, which the new facility is intended, I think, to mirror that, and for folks to go visit and see what they plan. But again, it's just a plan at this point.
Well, most of you see here is from the Dixie United Methodist Church, so if you have the meeting, it's at our church.
Heads up on that.
Wayne, I'd like to thank you for bringing some of these things to everybody's attention, and I don't know everything about it at all. My understanding is they are not going to take any of the coal out at that portal. They're going to take it straight over to Uniontown, so there won't be the big trucks that are hauling it out, which I think is a plus. My understanding is they are going to reinstate the fan there at Carden at the big turn, so I don't think there'll be a fan there.
There might be, though.
well, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. But one of the most important things you talked about is your roads. And most all of Henderson County's roads are too narrow. We have very little shoulders. Almost all of our roads are we don't have written easements. They're done by prescription. In other words, that means they've been there over time. By state law, we only have the use of it to the backside of the ditch, which makes it hard to widen and do what we need to do. For almost 40 years now, I've been trying to advocate that the fiscal court, every time we do a project, we ask for the right-of-way, certain distance, so we could have sidewalks and have, walking trails and maybe horse trails or something along the roads, in addition to having some place where you can widen and have, like you said, get to. We've got a lot of bridges, and I've talked to our engineer. We've been working on this. I'm going to go ahead and draw up an easement so that we can do that. I talked to the engineer I think it was last court meeting about this, because it's not just your area, but that's important that we get that and see about getting the easement so that we can widen the roads. We've got, I think it's over $50 million of bridges, road work that needs to be done over the next few years. It's quite extensive, and we need to start planning on those things.
Well, the roads out there, especially Wheeler Road, is very narrow, very curvy, very hilly, and there's places that if you meet somebody's going to have to back up, because there's some ditches there that doesn't allow to get off on the shoulder. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Pritchett Crooks Road is also very similar there, very hilly. It's straight, but it's very hilly. And the good thing there, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. No one's out running. But when you get to the spring and the fall, when the farmers get out, their equipment takes up that complete road. Also, Sulphur Springs Road will be completely covered up with.
I don't know when the bridge replacement on those, but every time that we can get an 80/20 bridge, we try to take advantage of it. I believe our engineers will look at all those things.
Yeah. But I see where construction may start in April of next year. They're doing core samples out there this morning and yesterday. Is that there will be heavy equipment coming in out there, tractor trailers and construction workers. So Sulphur Springs is going to start building up pretty quick. And we would just appreciate you looking at that. We just think there's going to be some capital outlay there for the county to keep it safe out there, because we do not want the we like our sheriff here, but we don't want him out there unnecessary having to work in wrecks or cars in ditches, etc.
Well, I jokingly teased him, but we put the bridges, and I think he's got the most of them, and he works at it awful hard.
We appreciate it, Tim. So if you'll take that under consideration, we appreciate it, and keep the mind of the, because if you're out there, I'd love before you come out there about 8 or 9 o'clock at night after it gets dark, and listen how quiet it is. That's why we live there, and that's why families stay out there on the family farms. So again, thank you. I appreciate the you allowing me to come for you
No,
today.
thank you again.
Wayne, I got the fan he was talking about over on the curve. I can see it from my house. But
Well, wait till they crank it up.
they did, believe me.
You'll hear it.
But
You asked Otis Walters in the east end of the county before they shut that one down.
well, I know that
Is
they
it-
permitted it though. It went through the planning commission.
I understand. You still have to live with it, the sound.
Right, I'm just saying, you didn't think that they would have a permit or commission, but they did that fan. I'm not telling you that they're not going to put a fan, because I don't know.
We don't either.
But I do know that they permitted for that, and it went through the planning commission before it did, and they put some berms. I can hear it. I'm not going to tell you I can't hear it, because I can. But-
There's nothing. It's just going to knock it down maybe a few decibels.
Right.
But outside that, they're still fan. They make a lot of noise. And for me personally, my wife and I, that's her family farm, it devalues our property. The announcement today, our home went down that day. So if I try to sell it and move, want to go to Florida, and retire there, which I'm already retired. But if I want to move off and sell it, I'm going to take less money today because of this announcement. And one of those would make it worse, would make that fan. So we appreciate anything you can do to help us. We appreciate anything that you can help us with Alliance to try to get some of this stuff done and done properly for the community. Dixie is a wonderful community. I did not grow up in this county, but I've been here over 45 years, so it's home. And so I invite you to come out and look, and if you'll do a traffic study, you'll see there's not a lot of traffic, even on State Highway 145. I know they go by Allen's house all the time. If you have 100 cars go through from Cardin to Poole, you know, it's a rush hour that we've never seen before. There's a parade of some kind. So if you would do that, we greatly appreciate it. And I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else from the audience have anything for good of the county?
I got an employee that just recently finished up all of his training for mechanics. He's kind of worked himself up to the ranks in the last 4 or 5, or I guess 4 years, 3 years, and I'm looking to move him up to mechanics, to mechanic pay. We've had some. We have another mechanic that's been there for a long time. He's been hitting at retirement, so that will bring our force down to only have one mechanic if this doesn't go through. So I like to rather be up front of it than behind it. So I need to. I like to get ahead of the game and have the two mechanics on schedule whenever he leaves. So we'll get this next one moved up.
Do we need the name and the pay?
Yes, we
It's
do.
Noah Lowry, and the mechanics pays $21 an hour.
What's he making now?
I think it's like around 18.
So, and what's his
18
current
to-
position?
Right now, he is a heavy equipment operator.
So we need a vote to add a mechanic's position,
Yes.
paying at $21
Yes.
an hour, and fill that with Noah Lowry. Is that what you're asking?
Yes. Yes. Because just if he gets moved up, then that will put me 3 mechanics there. But with this one hitting retirement, that way we'll be able to keep 2 on the books after he retires. So.
Is it your intention then to just maintain 2 mechanics positions and open up that heavy equipment
Yes.
operator's position again? Does everybody understand that?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to approve, but talk to Brad ahead of time before you bring it up so we can put it on the agenda, if that's
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, it helps to give everybody a heads up. So we have a motion to that effect.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any
So
questions?
We're not going to put the heavy equipment operator on until the mechanic retires, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there'll be no addition in workforce. There's just a change for him. This is something Bill started when and I'm just kind of finishing up what he had going. Had a list of recommendations he wanted Noah to go through, and then within the last month he's went through all the equipment schools for to be equipment mechanic. So I had him. He just finished up all those, got all those certificates. So this is going to put us in front of the position instead of being behind on the on being one mechanic down if this other one retires. So
Right. So to reiterate, there's no increase in the total number of employees.
no.
And the equipment operator's vacancy will be filled after the mechanic you expect to retire goes ahead and
Yes,
tells
yes.
you, okay.
Do you
Yes.
know when that is?
No, he's talking about being. He's mentioned in the next calendar year. So, spring time frame. Most of them retire in the spring versus summer. So, but he's made that mention. So this is kind of the filling up from what Bill had left over with Noah, anyways. And he's went through and filled all of his requirements, and then got all the mechanic schools certificates. So this is kind of finish that up.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nick, can you also tell the court about the two gentlemen who just graduated from the Rhodes Scholar Program?
Yes, we had two individuals, Glenn Cummings and Derek Salyer. Derek Salyer is a heavy equipment operator, and Daryl Cummings, I said Daryl Cummings, man, that's a long time ago. No, this is Glenn Cummings. He's my road supervisor, and they both just graduated Rhodes Scholar. They started that endeavor about a year ago. So the way the normal move works is finish up Rhodes Scholar, then they go into Roadmaster. Those two requirements are kind of a statewide, level that they like everybody to be, up through advisory and supervision to have those classes and have those accolades behind them. So they finished at the first battle, which is the Rhodes Scholar, and then now they're going to be moving to the Roadmaster. So the Roadmaster will start, in the first calendar year of 2023. It typically takes about a year by the time they get through all the classes, and then they'll be finished with that one also.
The Rhodes Scholar Program is, I believe, administered through the University of Kentucky?
Yes, University of Kentucky T2 program. They're the ones that set all of it up, and it's statewide. So if you're real adamant on getting it done within a year, you just travel a lot. But they have it sporadically through from Paducah all the way to Pikeville to classes. So you just kind of jump around to get in your area, so you're not driving 5.5 hours to get to a class. If you wanna make it, the best physical responsible way you can, it'll take a couple of years to get them through everything, because you'll do close classes, either Owensboro or Hopkinsville or Madisonville, or now with the introduction of a lot of online classes, it's knocked down the drive time a lot. So that's the reason why they were able to jump through this one so quick, because it ended up back on COVID still, and a lot of those were still online classes, so they didn't have to worry about driving over to the Eastern Kentucky to pick up a lot of these classes.
And the value of this is, it is a next level of training in all things roads. It's very well regarded. It's not easy to graduate. And for these two gentlemen in our road department to both complete the program is quite a feat. And now they're going on to even the next step, right?
Yes, yes, and that kind of helps to kind of see problems on the road, to be proactive rather than reactive. If they see a problem out there and say, hey, Nick, I got a problem out here, you want to come and take a look at it? It kind of helps put another set of eyes that's actually trained eyes to look at it, rather than having to take a phone call from, a constituent, in y'all's case, that we got a problem on the road. And instead of my guys going out there and to focus on the problem they're going out there for, they can also see, while they're driving out, what problems that can be rectified if they get out there.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have one question, Nick, for you. They're building the road out for the airport extension.
Yes.
Now, are you overseeing that project, or?
I'm going out there and overlooking at the road from they've got a federal inspector out there, with it being federal money, so they've got direct oversight of the project. I don't have any. I'm out there looking at what's going on. I go out there and when I can find a contractor, I talk with them. But my point is just looking to see what's going on. Right now, they're still in the new phases of the construction part of it. So when they start getting in, started getting in the rock and asphalt, then I'll be more, I guess I'll overstep my bounds as much as I can. But they've actually got with it being federal money, that's all tied up to the federal inspectors and that part of it. So.
Okay, I have a request from you then.
Yes.
Where they're crossing the road, where they're coming in off of 136.
Yes.
And where they're crossing Trigg Turner Road, they've got a lot of dirt on the road, which we're fine right now, but they're predicting rain tonight, and I'm afraid that we're going to create a terrible safety hazard. Could we ask them to clean that road? And
whenever I leave here, I'll go and see if I can get somebody out there and scrape it up, get it broomed off.
All
That,
right.
that would be a typical construction method. They should,
They should
yeah,
really
already
be
have
doing
that.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It should be a rock line going into traveled roadway, so you have a clean out area. So, all right, I'll check with that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anybody else for good of the county? We'll start with Magistrate McCullum, good of the county. Anything?
Once again, all my roads and ditches are really in good shape, thanks to the city. But I can't stress how important it is that we do have good roads in the county. If you don't have good infrastructure, we're not going to get industries, people wanting to come here. And I think we need to look at widening our roads, getting the right-of-ways, and it's something I think is necessary. I think it would help prevent. I know that our engineers got this plan on trying to remove obstructions and stuff from our road and doing that, but you can't do it without right-of-ways, and we all need to work together to try to get that accomplished. I do have a new greenhouse at my house. Every husband should have one for their wife, and I would encourage you all to do that. Okay. But all's good in the fifth.
Thank you. Magistrate Barry.
Thanks, Judge. I don't have much. Thanks, Wayne, for coming in with your guys' concerns. Well taken. I know everybody over there is concerned about it, and I'm sure it'll be looked at. So we welcome you anytime with concerns to come in. Nick, there's Nick. Thanks for the blacktop, Nick. I think we're getting blacktopping underway. That's good. Thank everybody for coming. And that's about all I have. Thanks, good in District 1.
Mr. Evans, pinch hit for Mr. Gold today. Anything to add to the conversation, Mr. Evans?
Judge, everything's good in the county attorney's office for all families traveling fall break. I hope they travel safe and get home safe.
Me too. Magistrate Southern.
Blacktop has started in my district.
He gets it all.
And I appreciate it. They're working on Burbank Road, which is long overdue.
Yes.
And that will be moving out to the Little Dixie area, I think, this week. I believe it'll be out. They'll be out that way. I appreciate y'all coming. Yep. Well, my family's sitting in the front row there, so it's. I understand what you're saying, and I do get it, but I think y'all understand too. And I mean, we want to do the right thing. That's for sure. So, that's all I have. Y'all's good in District 3.
Thank you. Master Moran?
District 3? You are 3, aren't you?
Yeah. They didn't change me, did they?
Master Moran?
It is good to see the Hughes family and Little Dixie United Methodist Church, so it is good. So yes, we do care, and we will definitely work on.
We don't need
on
a
that.
fight. We need a
And
four, so
as far as I know, we're on the list to get our roads paved too. So everything's going well as far as all that goes, and everything's good in District 2.
Thank you. Master Putman?
Thank you, Judge. Again, we hear what you're saying. Definitely going to take a look at it and find out what's the best path and the best outcome for everyone involved. So, but again, thank y'all for being here. And Judge, all is good in the fourth.
Thank you. Thanks again for everybody for coming. I think it's always a challenge for any community to balance economic development versus quality of life. It's can sometimes be a needle to thread, and that's one of the reasons why we have the planning process, the planning commission process. And again, I urge you to take advantage of that as a way to offer opinions. At the same time, we want, chances for our children and grandchildren to come back and work here and have viable economy. So again, that's a difficult balance, difficult thing to judge. But I'm sure we'll figure out the best compromise, the best solution. Especially it involves as much public discourse as possible from this point on. We are going to go into executive session, or I'm going to ask the court to go into executive session as per KRS 61.810 1G, discussions between a public agency and representative business entity and discussions concerning a specific proposal. I make that motion, please.
Second it.
We have a motion and a second. We do not anticipate a vote coming out of this executive session, so we will just be adjourning when we get back. So otherwise, thank you for being here.
I haven't looked at it yet.
Hi there, how are you?
How you doing, Darren? Nice to see you.